Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Anna Bradnam. My name is Councillor Anna Bradnam, and I'm the chair of this committee. I'd like to welcome you to the Joint Development Control Committee meeting taking place at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 24th of January. Other members of the committee are, and I'll just ask them to register their presence here now. So, Councillor Bagent.
That's me, currently Labour member for Romsey.
Thank you. Councillor Levine.
Yeah, present.
I believe you're substituting for Councillor Flaubert.
I beg your pardon. No, I am an alternate for Ingrid, I think.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Porritt.
Sorry.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, present.
Thank you. And Councillor Thornborough.
Present.
And Councillor Smith. Thank you. And then from South Cambs District Council, we have Councillor Peter Fane.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Stobart.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Richard Williams has given his apologies. As has Councillor Khan. Thank you. Okay, so we're quorate because we require 3 members from each council to be present, and we have that. So thank you very much. Right. So the officers permanently at the table for this meeting are the delivery manager, Toby Williams. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. And this morning we have the legal advisor. Our legal advisor is Vanessa Blaine.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. We have our committee manager, Sarah Steed. Thank you. And our producer, Claire Tunnicliffe. So thank you very much, both. So copies of the agenda can be found on the City Council's website under committees, meetings, minutes and agendas. Members, there are some printed copies on the chairs at the side. When you're referring to an item, do please refer to the page and paragraph numbers within the agenda if you're referring to a specific paragraph or plan, as that makes it easier for us to all follow. And please can those present in the council chamber note that everything on your desk, including your laptop screen, may be broadcast at some point. The camera follows the microphone being switched on, so please wait a couple of seconds before speaking when you turn your microphone on to allow the camera to catch up. And then please raise your hand if you wish to speak. For those participating in the meeting, I don't think we've got anybody participating in the meeting actively by Teams, but if you want to follow, note that the meeting chat is neither confidential nor private and can be subject to an FOI or GDPR request. Please can meeting participants keep their microphone and cameras turned off until we come to the application that you might be speaking on, at which point I'll invite you to join us. The process for consideration of the planning application will be that the planning case officer will present the proposals and give an overview of the key issues as set out in their report. Registered public speakers will be invited to have their say. There will be 3 minutes for those speaking in support, 3 minutes for those speaking against, unless I've advised otherwise. The committee manager will ring a bell when the 3-minute time period has passed. Public speakers are unable to join in with the council debate. As a point of issue, I don't think we have any public speakers today. Oh, we do. Okay, we do. Right, lovely. Thank you. The committee will then discuss, debate the item and may ask questions of the case officer. At the end of the deliberation, I'll ask members to vote on the officer's recommendation by show of hands. So, moving on to item 2, please would councillors advise if they have any declarations of interest and identify which report their declaration refers to. Councillor Bagent?
I'm a member of Cambridge Cycling Campaign Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stobart?
Chair, I'm also a member of Cambridge Cycling Campaign.
Thank you. And Councillor Hawkins? Did you? No? Okay, sorry. Anybody else? No. Right, thank you. So, agenda item 3 is the minutes of meetings. So firstly, we look at the minutes on the 18th of October. Just to kick things off, these are on page 4 of our agenda. I wished to clarify on page 4, under the representations from Cambridge Past, Present and Future, I would like to add in the statement just above numbers Roman 1 and 2, the representation from CPPF covered the following issues. This is simply to distinguish. There was some quite emotive language in their report, which is perfectly acceptable for us to report, but I wanted to make it clear that that was CPPF making that comment and not this committee. And the second thing I wanted to... No, that's fine, that was all. Oh, the second thing was on page 8 of our agenda, when we're coming to the resolution, it's just a typo that we resolved to defer the application, and item 2 says AR review of the proposed cycle paths. I think that's just a typo, and it should just simply be a review. So I just want to get that corrected. Does anybody else have any other issues to raise with the minutes? No? Lovely. Okay, so can I take your approval to sign those minutes as agreed? As amended, should I say? Thank you. Right. Just start that and I'll finish it afterwards. Thank you. And then there are the minutes from the 15th of November, which related to the application for the 40 site and the Vitrum building. I have no amendments. Is everybody happy that those are a true record? Okay, thank you. I'll sign those. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so we move on to item 4, which is the first substantive item on the agenda, where we are looking at 23/00835/FUL, Taylor Vintners, Merlin Place, 460 Milton Road, Cambridge. So, please, would the Principal Planner introduce this item? I think we've got Mike Huntington. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, before I start the presentation, can I just bring members' attention to the amendment sheet, the agenda item 7 on the single sheet of paper, dated, which was yesterday, which talks about the date on the previous committee was the 18th of October, not the 21st of October. Apologies. And just further adding that the Urban Design Officer and Landscape Officer have both responded to the amended scheme with no objections to the amended proposals. And after discussions with the Sustainability Officer, amendments to the proposed water efficiency condition 37 have been proposed. And amended wording to the other conditions 35 grey water recycling and 36 rainwater recycling have been made. The underlined text is on the amendment sheet. And I'd just like to also say that Tam Parry's joined from the County Council. So if any questions of County Council in transport terms, Tam's here to help. Thank you. So the next slide, just to remind members what the recommendation is, and in bold and underlined text are the changes to the recommendation, so that there are additional conditions in the addendum report and also changes to some of those proposed additional conditions on the amendment sheet.
Sorry, could I just interject? Members, the original version of those conditions was on page 23-24 of our report, and this amendment sheet amends those conditions. Thank you.
Chair. Right, so on to the main body of the presentation. So just to remind members of the reasons for deferral, we've set them up in four different topics. A is access to the building for cyclists, pedestrians and mobility scooters, and a review of the car parking arrangements with parity of esteem between cyclists, cars and pedestrians. Point B was a review of the public realm, landscaping with the need to retain existing trees and hedge. Point C, building design, colour and materials, vertical public realm. And D, updated sustainability strategy and water use strategy details. So just to remind members of the location of the site, pointer. I need some bifocal glasses, I can't. That's the location of the proposed site. Milton Road coming off the A14 junction down into Cambridge, and Cowley Road on this side. This plan, to remind members, shows the current level of activity in this part of Cambridge, with the blue sites being recent consented schemes, although this one hasn't been implemented, the Science Park Hotel and Conference Venue, St John's Innovation Park, which hasn't started building yet, and then buildings down by Station Square, down by Cambridge North Station. Current pre-app discussions are, current applications include the Brookgate scheme, which has had its public inquiry, operational hub, Merlin Place, and Vitram, which is currently going through Section 106 negotiation. And then going on to the yellow-orange applications, these are at pre-app. Got the big site, the core site, Hartree, the Crown Estate on 1 Cambridge Business Park, Trinity Hall Farm Industrial Estate, this plot 210 to 240 Science Park. This one will be coming to members in March, hopefully, for a member briefing. And then 440 Science Park. And then early dialogue in green. So what we can see is lots and lots of activity happening in this area. These two aerial photographs, just to remind members of the location. This is a recent aerial showing the Wilkes building just to the north and the existing Merlin Place building here. This is an older plan which showed what was here before the Wilkes building was built. So there was a hedge line and a tree line. Yep, closer. Is that better? Thank you. And this aerial image shows in a wider context the site in relation to other areas. These are buildings that were built relatively recently on the Science Park, with a multi-storey car park in the bottom right-hand corner of the Science Park. So these are the most recent buildings that have been constructed, and then the Wilkes building here. Again, another bit of context to set the scene. The site is here, so it's within the Cambridge City Council local plan policy area of major change, policy 14, and it's just inside the boundary of the City Council. Milton Parish Council is just the other side of the footpath. So, moving on to addressing the reasons for deferral. The first broad reason was access to the building for cyclists, pedestrians and mobility scooters, with a review of car parking arrangements with parity of esteem between cyclists, cars and pedestrians. So what I'll do, I'll just go around these, on this plan, the various points that have been highlighted on this plan in a clockwise direction. So the first point here, there was concern that there were steps in this location next to the bus stop. The steps have been removed and replaced with a ramp. The number of car parking spaces in the Undercroft car park has now been reduced from 45 to 37, a loss of 8 spaces, which has allowed for the cycle parking area to be relocated from external buildings in this area to within the building structure, accessed through the Undercroft car parking. This is a secondary route, but might well be a primary route, and is considered to be safe with a very low number of car parking spaces in the area. These steps here have been replaced with a ramp, and then the access into the site for cyclists will come straight across the greenway, which will run along here. Come straight across here at grade crossing, subject to detailed design with the County Council. Come straight into a 3 metre wide cycle access into cycle storage spaces in here and through here. So all this area could be accessed straight across in a direct way. The public realm area has been extended from a point which originally was around here and has now been extended and a further 18 metres this way. So the public realm, the front of the building has been extended. And the back of house spaces here have been optimised to reduce the length of inactive frontage along the Cowley Road entrance. So that's addressed a few of the points that were raised at last committee. This plan shows in a bit more detail where pedestrians, cyclists and motor vehicles will access. So starting with the green, this shows that cyclists will be able to enter the site up here through the access into the car park, through the Undercroft into the cycle store here. The other option will be across this crossing and also on this cycle path here, or the upgraded Waterbeach Cambridge Greenway that's shown in the dotted green line. As just part of this greenway, the proposals are for the carriageway, the Cowley Road carriageway, to be narrowed by, I think, about 3 metres, with a much wider verge here as well. So the character of this road will change considerably. And then the vehicle access, so we'll talk about pedestrian access next. So pedestrians could come down the ramp along here if they got off the bus. They could cross over the pedestrian crossing up here and go along this way. Could either go inside the site where the public realm is, or along the footpath here, various locations, and then the main entrance will be here. They could also come in this way, and also they could come in this way if they were coming from the railway station and they chose to go that way and then crossed over. Vehicle access is in one place here with a shared surface pedestrian crossing, so pedestrians would have right of way across that junction, as is happening in many newer developments. So moving on to the second bit, a review of the public realm landscaping with the need to retain existing trees and hedge. So, further retention of existing trees and hedges along Cowley Road, 3 more trees to be retained and a significant length of existing hedge to be retained. A shorter length of inactive frontage, as I'd highlighted before, so here to here would now be active, that space. And increased public realm zone from that point to that point. This plan shows some additional other trees to be retained, shown in the red dotted line. So a few more trees to be retained. This is the area with new public realm trees, so trees with newer root protection zones and designed to fit into a plaza type environment. Also, additional hedging along here as well. So there's additional hedgerow planted over and above what they had originally submitted. This plan shows a southern area where concern was raised about whether there's anything here that would encourage people to sit and spend some time, notwithstanding the fact it's between two quite busy roads. The steps have been removed, as I mentioned earlier. There's been some additional seating proposed as well. And the landscaping will just be improved generally in that area. This plan is just shows in overall terms how the site fits in with the wider trees and landscaping of the site, and what we've got with the removal of the cycle stores in this area, a much more generous space, public realm space, all around here, and then this is an area where the trees and hedging will be retained, whereas previously it would have been removed. Moving on to building design, colour and materials, vertical public realm. So the application is the applicant has proposed adding additional balconies in this location, south facing, but with shade behind, with the projecting element of this building, providing that shade to this area so it wouldn't overheat. So that seems like a sensible location to put that additional feature. And then you can see here the ground and first floor active zone going all the way along the Cowley Road entrance. So they're all connected in an architectural treatment. And the same, this elevation shows the ground and first floor extending further than it used to do. It previously stopped here, and now it carries on all the way that way. And also, this area is now more visible because previously there were cycle stores in this broad location. This plan just shows a bit more information. There's also additional green roof, and the back of house bit of the building has been rationalised, again, to reduce that inactive length. This is an elevation which would not be, it's an illustrative view because you wouldn't see that view that far away because there are buildings here, but it just shows a clear idea of the ground and first floor active zone and the change to it. In effect, all of this area here is now glazed where previously it wasn't in that form. This is a plan that shows an illustrative view that shows the crossing and the public realm in front. And again, that view as cyclists would find a way straight into the building here. That's their main location. Now, some concern or commentary was expressed in terms of the colour of the building. So the applicant has undertaken some colour studies. This is another iteration of the red. So this is a paler red to, well, I mean, if you can go back to that colour was the original colour. Slightly paler again, copper version 1 and a copper version 2. So that's how they've suggested addressing that issue. And then finally, the updated sustainability strategy and water use strategy details. So the applicant has looked at BREEAM. We've proposed some, after talking to Emma Davis, our sustainability officer, we've proposed some additional planning conditions, and this shows how they will meet the BREEAM WAT 5 credits under BREEAM WAT 01, and it talks about the water use per person per day in this chart. It's a different type of calculation that we're using for that we're looking at for residential developments. This is more like the 2025 target is 13 litres per person per day. So what the applicant will be required to do is provide the evidence that the calculator has been achieved. And then the final point is about sustainability and the overheating element for the tower, the feature for the lantern feature, sorry. And they've addressed the issue in terms of the REBA Stage 2 design work, and then an additional condition highlighted in the amendment sheet, not the amendment sheet, sorry, my addendum report on condition 34, external shading detail, will address that issue. So during REBA Stage 3, the applicant will undertake dynamic thermal modelling to refine the glazing detail of the lantern feature, including a glazing specification, opaque elements, and further opportunities for external shading. And that is just highlighting a bit more detail about that lantern feature on the scheme. So just to remind members of the issues that we were asked to discuss, go back to the applicant to look at. There were access to the building for cyclists, pedestrians and scooters, review of car parking arrangements, the parity of esteem between cyclists, cars and pedestrians, a review of the public realm and landscaping, the need to retain existing trees and hedge, building design, colour and materials, vertical public realm, and updated sustainability strategy and water use strategy detail. And that's the end. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mike Huntington. That's most helpful. So we'll now turn to the public speakers. We have with us Mr. Edward Joslin from Cadans, and do go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning. As mentioned in the previous meeting that we had here, my name is Edward Joslin, and I'm the Development Director for Cadans UK. Thank you for allowing us at Cadans to represent the scheme to the committee based on the deferral from the 18th of October 23 committee meeting. I've worked on the scheme for 2.5 years and exceptionally close with the team and the latest design iterations. The Cadans professional team and Cambridge Planning Technical Officers have worked through the deferral points from the aforementioned meeting, and we feel we've addressed points raised with full support from the planning team, and you have received a pack on this, and this predominantly focuses on 4 key points. The first point was building access. Concerns were raised about the public realm and the landscaping. We've increased the public realm on Cowley Road by pulling the building line back. We've also placed more of the cycling within the building, which provides more external landscaping opportunity with the removal of the 2 external cycle stores. We've provided additional landscaping and seating to the cafe area to provide a better external environment. We've retained 8 of the existing trees, of which 3 are on Cowley Road and 5 are on the main part of the site. We've provided a dedicated cycle entrance to the front of the building and also dual access to the building for cyclists, both through the car park and through the front of the building. And as a request of the committee members from the last meeting, we provided a dedicated space at the front of the building for electric scooters. Point 2 was the public realm. So we've now increased this by pulling the building line back. We've also provided more detailed external landscaping, planting and seating in both the front of the building and also in the pocket park area. The third area was design and colour. We've carried out a colour study, which Mike has shown you. This does show alternative options. This isn't an exhaustive list, and Cadans are not wedded to the red. We will consider other colour options within the building. We've also adapted the design to break up the eastern and the southern elevation of the building by providing banding of glazing at the reception, which gives you a double height area for almost the full length of the building on the east side. We've also provided staff amenity on the south elevation, which is balconies which can be utilised by all floors of the building. The fourth point was sustainability and water conservation. We've provided clarification back to the council on the achievement of how we propose to achieve the 5 credit points for the BREEAM WAT01. We've also provided some quite high-level shading and solar gain studies which show the prevention of the overheating of the lantern area as requested. In summary, we've worked through the scheme and feel that this addresses the points raised in October at committee meeting, and we look forward to your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jocelyn. So we'll shortly move to member questions, but I just want to remind members that having looked at the application on the 18th of October and deferred it on 4 main reasons, these are the reasons that are available for debate for us today. We are not getting into the business of looking at any of the other aspects of the application. So may I remind you that we are confined to the business of A, access broadly, B, a review of the public realm, C, the building design, and D, updated sustainability strategy as listed on page 19 in our report. So I will very happily take questions on those items in order. When I first received the question from Councillor Smart.
Just to confirm, Chair, so, I mean, I wasn't keen on deferring the item in the first place because it wasn't deferred for more information. But anyway, we are where we are. So when you say we're only going to debate these 4 items, so this item has come back to committee for full debate. So as I understand it, that's what we're going to do today.
Correct, but what I'm saying is we deferred the application for work on these 4 issues. So my understanding is that we are required only now to look at those 4 issues. And if you wish, we can take a legal advice from Vanessa Blaine if you wish to.
Well, that was exactly what I was saying, yeah.
Thank you.
There are 4 issues before you today only. It is those issues that are up for debate, not any of the other issues that were debated last time. Please concentrate on those 4 issues only. They were the issues that deferred the item, nothing else. It is those 4 items only.
So I think that's quite clear. Councillor Thornborough?
I've got a few. I just want to get on with the.
Now, can I?
Sorry, just before we go on with that, I want to take these questions about A first, then B, okay? Okay, sorry, Councillor Bajan.
Chair, I don't have the training of the lawyer, but my understanding is that that is not the situation. We didn't approve anything, so it doesn't mean that we exhausted the debate on everything when we deferred it. We deferred it on those 4 points, and before we go any further, to release any fear, I don't think there's any great problem here, okay? So let's not start worrying over there. This is about a point between us and the officers.
Councillor Bajan, at the meeting on the 18th, we deferred the item for consideration of these 4 issues. They were originally 5, but they've been consolidated to 4, which we agreed were the reasons we wanted the applicant to go away and consider the application in light of those 4 elements. That is what they've done. We are not now in the position of debating anything else on the agenda. Just be aware, members are entitled to refuse this application at this stage if they wish to, or approve it. But there are a lot of conditions to be taken into account as well. But Vanessa Blaine has made it quite clear that we are looking at these 4 issues. And much of what we want to consider may well fall under these 4 headings. So I'm hoping that's how our debate will go. Is that agreed?
Well, I'm not agreeing it. I have to accept the legal officer's position at this present moment, but I think that we should come back to this. I think this needs to be debated in another forum and in another place.
This is what happens when you defer an application for consideration of specific items. Those are the items that come back to committee. So I'd like to move on, if that's okay. And let's have a look at, first of all, questions under item A, which is access to the building for cyclists, pedestrians and mobility scooters, and a review of car parking arrangements with parity of esteem between cyclist cars and pedestrians. So, Councillor Thornborough.
No, I've got quite a lot of questions, but I don't think any of them come into that. Yeah.
Councillor Stobart.
Chair, thank you. So Can I say, as regards...
Right, members, could you just be quiet while we need one person speaking at a time? Thank you, Councillor Stobart.
As regards access for cyclists from the Greenway, so this is crossing Cowley Road, I have to say that this does represent an improvement over what we saw last time. There is just one slight concern which I think the county officer could comment on, which is people coming from the north on a bike will want to turn right into the development across a stream of traffic, which is probably going to be quite considerable heading north. So I think that area, and I think LTN 120 and other applicable standards would work here, but there is the potential for conflict. But access into the building for cyclists looks good. There's potential for multiple entrances and exits, which makes it flexible. You get into the building quickly in the rain. So from that point of view, I think it does represent an improvement. It does require some attention to that bit of the Greenway, which is adjacent to the Copenhagen-style crossing. So I'd like to hear a comment on that.
Thank you. And we should point out that part of the reason the access is, one of the elements ways in which the access has been improved is that now the cycle parking is inside the building, which it was outside before, and we asked for that. So, Mike. Okay, so Tam this is Tam Parry from County Council Highways. Would you like to introduce yourself, Tam?
Fine, one that works. Good morning, Tam Parry, Transport Assessment Team, Cambridgeshire County Council. So I think the comment was about crossing over Cowley Road on the new crossing place to be provided.
Sorry. Tam, could I just interrupt? Mike, would you kindly put up that photograph of the slide of the access routes, the green, red, the pedestrian and cycle access routes? Would that be helpful, Tam?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for Mike to get to that. That's the one. So the crossing place has been shown indicatively. It does need detailed design and then safety audits. We think it can work. We've seen a drawing from the Greenway team at the Greater Cambridge Partnership where they've actually designed it in because they wanted to be clear if they could make it work as well within the Greenway design. So we think the two do go together quite well, but there are some details to be ironed out. So you're right, this kind of happens through the detailed design process. But we're confident that something there will be possible, hopefully in the form of, I think it's a tiger crossing where you've got a zebra crossing to one side and then a cycle element to that to the other side. I hope that helps.
And the other thing I wanted to ask about this was, of course, that road is going to be the major access, certainly it's currently the major access to the railway station, but it will be the major access to this whole site for a period of time. And I just wondered if you feel this is adequate given the volume of traffic that's likely to be on that road, on Cowley Road.
Yes, so the crossing facility proposed is a tiger crossing, so that's a formal crossing. So that formal means that it's either like a zebra type or a pelican type where you press a button and there's traffic lights. It's definitely the best thing to do here with the traffic volumes is to have a formal crossing as opposed to tactile paving and then people kind of run across the road in gaps. So yes, the road is busy now, it will be busy in the future. So it's an appropriate crossing type to have.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Thornborough?
The Cowley Road is currently two-way traffic, and so my question is, hopefully the Waterbeach busway will come along, but if for any reason it doesn't come along, because you never know, how do you think the particularly cycle access would work? Would there be an opportunity to do that level crossing with the current road situation? And my other question is that bus stop an existing bus stop? Thanks.
Yeah, so if the Greenway doesn't come along, although they are looking to start construction on this section of the Greenway in March, so we do expect it to come along. But if for whatever reason it doesn't come along, then that crossing type could be implemented on the current highway layout. That would be fine, we could make that work. And the bus stop on Milton Road is an existing bus stop, yes, southbound into the city.
Okay, so, Councillor Porra.
Thank you. So I wonder if the officer or Tam might be able to comment. We're talking about parity of esteem between pedestrians, cycles and cars. I'd rather prefer to think of it as a hierarchy with pedestrians and cycles then cars. I mean, I do welcome the improvements. I'd be interested in Tam's view on this secondary cycle entrance, so in effect going along with the cars. How can that be managed? Because I'm kind of thinking natural behaviour, anyone coming from the left as I'm looking at is going to go in through the car. I'm thinking, for example, at the station you have segregated paths for pedestrians behind the car parking spaces. I'm just a little concerned that that will become the primary entrance and then there's that additional risk. So whether it would be actually secondary, and if it is going to be used a lot, how can we condition some kind of segregated markings there so it's very clear that if a cyclist coming behind a car reversing out, the cyclist has priority? Thank you.
Do you want to comment on that?
I used to have a cycle storage facility in the underground car park at Shire Hall. So I was always cycling through a car park to get to the cycle cage, and then the same in the evening coming home. It actually works fine because you're really aware of cars, and cars are really aware of you. They're kind of cautious, and you're cautious too, and it actually works fine in this environment. And the layout of this car park is really straightforward. It's just straight with car parking bays on both sides. So you've got really clear visibility of any cars moving, and likewise they just have a look in one direction to see you. So I think it's a very, very minimal risk, not anything that we need to deal with through conditions or anything.
Thank you. And one other question is, if a cyclist approached from the east and went in through the frontage of the building, they would have access to this area of cycle parking immediately behind the cafe, wouldn't they? Is that actually connected to the cycle park? Yes, exactly. Mike's showing the connection. Is that actually connected to, I think, what must be probably double height stacks in the area behind? Or, can you get to both bits from both entrances?
Thank you, Chair. It's all connected. Everything's connected. So if you come through this way and the spaces are full, you can come through this way. Ditto this way. And I'm sure over time there'll be people who will form their own routes. They'll either choose this route or they'll choose this route.
Right, okay, thank you. Fine, okay. Councillor Smith.
That's true. Okay. I urged, Chair, when I used the phrase parity of esteem, Councillor Paul was quite right that it is a hierarchy. But I think what I was objecting to was the fact that there was undercroft car parking for the rich and out of the building cycle racks for the poor, and it just looked like a, rather a feudal type of arrangement. So I thought of things that needed to be balanced up somewhat, and this scheme does that, achieves that. It's very successful. To have covered cycle storage within the building and to have much, much improved access arrangements is a very positive development. And I think that we should thank the developer and the officers for working together to achieve a much, much more successful layout and provision. I mean, this is, if you like, this is the power of deferment. I think that it was a frustrating situation, and I'm sure the developer's been frustrated by the delay, but we didn't have a pre-app presentation when the issues that had been raised could have come out. It could have saved us all time. But notwithstanding all of that, this is a building that's going to last for many years, and therefore I think the delay has been worthwhile from this point of view. So it's much more successful, and I'm very content with this.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Great, and I am too. So let's move on to item B, which is a review of the public realm landscaping with the need to retain existing trees and hedge. So questions on that, members? Thank you. Councillor Thornborough?
Yeah, I think it's a really good improvement. I'm very pleased about the amenity space for the staff at different levels of the building, and that what's not being shown is the landscaping at different levels of the building. I think on the top floor, on some of the axonometrics, there is shown some landscaping, but I think landscaping is not just at ground level, and I just want to encourage the applicants to ensure that the landscaping on balconies or terraces are. It would have been great to have seen that, because I think it's a good part of the design. It helps the amenity of the staff and the people working there, and also it can help prevent overheating and reduce the urban heat effect. So I think that just in the future, if you include that, I think it would be the benefit of the applicant and also for the future occupants of the building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Porrow.
Thank you. I think my main concerns about the scheme were the trees, particularly along Cowley Road. And I do appreciate the glassing and the colonnade, but we're still losing most of those trees. And I worry sometimes that, it didn't come to pre-app. If this had come today fresh, would I be happy with that? I'm still concerned, and it is one of the reasons we listed, I checked in the report, the massing. The reason we're losing so much trees is because it's a massive building on the site. And I was rather hoping when it came back, it might have just gone in a couple more metres properly, because the colonnade has obviously allowed the retention of some trees, but it's only 8. There's still a lot going. I do notice the supplementary planting, and I recognise that. But I'm still a little stuck on the overall massing, because the reason we're losing so much is because it's so giant. And to me, it's well, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet, genuinely, but it's a very, very large bit of work. And that was one of the reasons we deferred. I just checked it's the massing and things. But for me, it's the impact on the green around it. So I just wonder if the officer could confirm. So there's quite a lot of hedging as we're looking at it, the bottom corner, where the point is. How much of that is now being retained? I understand 3 of the trees. I don't know if we have a picture of the original site, because I know when we did a site visit, they're quite prominent. But I'd be interested to know which of those trees that are being retained, because I think they may be the more prominent ones, but I'd quite like to see the original photo we had from the site visit, please. So I just wonder if the officer can comment a little bit more about what trees are still being lost, because I kind of worry a bit that we're only looking at the ones that are being saved rather than the ones that are being lost. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The trees that are being lost are in this area here. That's the area. But then they're being replaced with new trees. And one of the issues that had been raised by the applicant was that when the trees were planted, they've not been planted particularly well. So they've got fairly restricted lives in the root protection area. It wasn't very good. And that was one of the justifications for, well, there's a kind of a thing, you keep the trees, even though they might have some stunted growth because they've been there a number of years, so they have an element of maturity to them. But then this area here, because the front of the building is now along here, it's about how the front of the building is reflected with trees that are planted that reflect the front of the building. I'm just trying to think what another plan might show you. So, yes, it's that area there retaining the trees where previously they were coming down, and that's the hedge that's been retained, whereas previously was coming out. But also, they've added, I've not got a plan on here that shows the extent of the trees being removed here, but really it's this area here where the trees would be removed, from that point to that point, to be replaced with new trees, plaza entrance trees type 1 and type 2.
Can you just clarify for us what it means where they're circled in red?
They're trees that were previously to be removed and they've now been retained.
Okay, thank you.
So again, some additional trees here which they were going to remove and they've been retained. But it's this area here, that's the bit where the trees are going.
So,
And there's new hedge here, sorry Chair, there's a new hedge here as well, which
yes.
wasn't there. This is what they had originally proposed in the deferred application. This is new hedge, but was in the initial submission. That's new hedge. This is existing hedge retained. But the change from October to now is that this is now being retained, and this is additional here.
If I can come in here, we were concerned originally that the hedge all along the eastern edge of the building was going to be removed. So what we have achieved here is the retention of that section near, what's it called, the plant, the southern end of the building. But the section along the northern part of the building is going to be removed, but there are trees going to be put in there. As we saw from the ground floor visuals, there will be trees along there to soften that frontage. Councillor Porro, do you want to come back?
Thank you. Then that's really helpful to see. I don't know if at some point you could find the original site photos because they were really useful because it kind of just gives that idea of which bits they are, not immediately. Could I just check that you and the tree team are satisfied that the new trees going in are going to thrive there? Because obviously you mentioned restricted routes, but my understanding is the new building's even nearer to those routes. Are we satisfied that they'll be okay? And I don't know, Toby's going to love me for this, you know the condition we've been using on planning committee about we're asking where trees are planted next to new builds that additional, well, suitable root protection, if necessary, over and above building control are put in place to ensure that those trees don't end up being felled in a few years when they start affecting the building. So I don't know whether we'd consider that as a condition. I'm happy for that to be delegated to chair and vice chair if that needs to be looked into, but it's been something we've started using a lot in city planning just to stop this idea that you put a tree in and then 5 years later they go, oh, I'm making a crack in my building and the tree comes down, which I'm sure isn't the intention of the applicant, but I do think because this does hinge on biodiversity, I would feel more satisfied if we were able to do that.
So that if it died within 5 years, it was replaced?
No, it's when they're putting in foundations, need to be mindful of the type of tree they're putting in.
Oh, right.
So they
okay.
don't, in effect, put a tree in that 10 years later
say
turns
it's-
out the roots. So in effect saying you need to get that root protection screening in kind of now. And just, again, if the officer could just comment whether he is satisfied that what are proposed are, A, substantial enough to replace the vista that's being removed, obviously when they grow, and that they will be able to thrive. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, could I just, certainly, after you've said what you, do go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. So after speaking to the landscape team, they're content that the planning condition, which is planning condition 20, hard and soft landscaping, which is a standard planning condition, but we can certainly tweak it through the chair and vice chair to just reiterate that. I mean, it does talk about proposed and existing functional services above and below ground, but we can certainly tweak that just to make sure that it's absolutely crystal clear.
Yes, and we've got the summary on page 54 of our agenda at 1313, where the tree officer considered, he'd originally objected to the original proposal, and then he went through his arguments, but then said, on balance, the replanting, he felt that was an appropriate. They have appropriately addressed the issues of landscape and trees, but absolutely we can take on board the points that you're making. Councillor Thornborough?
I used to work in this building because when it was first built, and and I remember all of the trees being planted, and the trees to the north and along the main roads were screening trees, and this was a building which was just it was like an isolated building and on this plot. And I think what's happening now is the Cowley Road is going to be single carriageway, and this is really creating a streetscape, which I think is a huge improvement. Before, it's a building on an island, really. And the whole, the improvements in the whole of northeast area it will enhance this building and the people using that, because it's not going to be isolated. So I think that actually the removal of the trees along that bit of the building to create the streetscape and integrate the calmer road with what's happening in the building is a huge improvement. And then this will hope that people from the building will be going out more and going to other parts of the site. So it's not an island. So I think the landscaping and the removal of those trees are justified, because overall I think it will be a real improvement there.
Okay, that's encouraging. Thank you. Councillor Stobart?
Chair, well, I'm pleased Councillor Thornborough just said that, because I was thinking, from my many trips down Cowley Road on the bike, just how liberating this building is going to be to that local area. And of course, this ups the game as far as this area is concerned. So I think this is a good first step to, encouraging that improved feel and environment. Those trees running down the side of the building are field maples. Field maples grow quite well in Cambridgeshire, I think. I'm way outside of my field of expertise here, but their loss wouldn't be huge. But I'd just like to focus for a moment on the southern park and the benefits that might accrue in the southern park, because there's plenty of scope there. The trees there, I don't know what they are, but they're neither tall nor particularly attractive. But the scope for making the southern park, in a sense, compensate for that loss on the eastern boundary that we've just been talking about is considerable. Now, the appropriate choice of trees, for example, makes that southern park, even though it's right next to the traffic light, so from a noise point of view, perhaps not so great. But you could, through, I think, the right kind of planting, get noise attenuation and cooling. And so it could be a very good place to hang out. That was just going to lead me on to my next point. The hanging out might need coffee and a food truck. So perhaps services in the southern park area might be appropriate to encourage the use. Great place for the office workers to go and hang out and meet. And there's plenty of shared space here, which I think gives that sense of common usage and, dare I say it, community. Even though there's traffic going by, a level shared space, I think, is very appropriate. So I think it's good, but attention to the structure of that southern park, I think, is important. It leads, for people arriving from the south, it will lead the eye into the development. It will soften some of the edges, but it will be a big contributor.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Stobart. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you. Just to follow on from Councillor Stobart's point, that area, the southern area, can be made more useful as well with, I think, more seating. Because what I find is when I go to areas like that, that just has one or two benches, and you want to sit, there's nowhere to sit. So having a few more benches, I think, would help. Certainly, Councillor Stobart's made all the points I want to make on that one now. The cafe, and of course for me it was a case of the cafe I think was in the wrong place, has always been in my view, because I thought if it was near the south, then you could sit there and or kids could go into the park area to play. I just wondered if there could be something under the trees that are going to be retained, again just for sitting out and enjoying the cafe.
You mean
make it more useful.
Do you mean north end?
The north end, sorry, yeah. Front of the cafe.
I think there are. I think the plans we saw earlier on showed quite a lot of seating on that northern boundary around that.
It's just, it wasn't obvious that was seating. It could have just been anything. I don't know.
It was seating, yes.
Okay, if it is
As far as
seating,
I'm aware, it was seating, yes.
if it is seating, I just want to make that point clear. That will be more
Yeah.
useful, especially for young mothers with kids and
Yes,
et cetera.
perhaps we could confirm that. I mean, as I recall, and I'm working from memory, there was an area of seating immediately outside the cafe and then in under the trees, wasn't there, around that northeastern corner of the site. Can you confirm that, Mike, please? Sorry.
Thank
Mr.
you, Chair.
Huntington.
Yes, I can confirm that's all seating, and with the removal of the external cycle sheds, there's more seating as well.
Good, thank you. Is that
Finally, if I may, there's this landscaping page here which talks about supplementary tree and shrub planting. Just to go back to Councillor Pora's point, it does list the number of trees that will be there, and looks like we're going to have potentially a net gain of 29 trees on the
Yes.
site. 74 existing, 24 of the existing trees are proposed for removal, 53 new trees to be planted, and a net gain of 28 trees on site. So,
Yes,
still a lot of
absolutely.
trees.
Certainly,
Yeah.
that was my understanding, that there were more trees being planted on the northern edge to thicken the screen on the northern edge of the building. And there was the little hedge being planted on that north edge to sort of give a little separation from the traffic lights there. Right, okay, so are we all, I think we've all asked our questions about landscaping, and we've been satisfied that the choice of trees will be suitable for the proximity to the buildings, as Councillor Borough requested. Okay, so moving on to item C then, building design, colour and materials, vertical public realm. Can I just clarify, does a vertical public realm, I have visions of people roped up and going up the edge of the building. Are we talking about balconies that are on floors 2, 3, 4? Yes, nods. Okay, thank you. So are there any questions, members, on building design, colour, materials? Yes, Councillor Thornborough.
Yeah, I quite like the red. I like the red, but I like the previous version of red. I just wonder if the officer might. I'm just always concerned about the urban heat effect, and we had a very good presentation from some experts in urban heat effect and how the different use of materials and glazing can make it much worse. And I just hope that the way the facade works with the glass being set back, sometimes it's difficult to tell from elevations how it's been broken up and whether there's shading elements. But if the officer could comment on how has there been a focus on reducing the urban heat effect? Thank you.
Perhaps you could respond to that.
When you refer to urban heat effect, do you mean the occupiers of the building?
Yes, well, at those out, not inside the building, that's overheating, but
Yeah.
it's to do with the effect on the space outside. So it's to do with the hard spaces outside and the building reflecting heat and creating a hotter space outside.
I don't think that's been explicitly considered, because what we've tried to do is make sure that outside, the public realm outside, so the area where people will be closest to the building is on the eastern elevation. So it's not likely to have most of the sunshine most of the day. It'll have the early sunshine. And then when it came to the balconies, they are south-facing, but they are shaded by the projecting southern lantern feature. So the public realm has been, so people experiencing the building outside of that building will be will not be facing the full weight of the sunshine. I mean, they might complain that it'd be dark and wet in winter because it'd be in the afternoon, there'd be no sunshine there whatsoever. But in the hotter parts of the year, that will be probably one of the cooler parts of in terms of the outside of that building, probably one of the cooler parts of the site.
Thank you. Toby Williams would like to make a comment.
Thanks, Chair. So, I mean, we don't have an explicit
policy on this, of the policies that I have seen that other councils have encouraged in order to kind of mitigate the urban heat island effect. Things like kind of green and brown roofs. For example, you can see on this building that there's a fairly substantial part of the upper part of the roof that has a green and brown roof. We've also seen that there is some modelling that the applicants have done around the external facade of the building, which is around effectively kind of reducing kind of overheating of the building itself, but with the BREEAM specifications that we're seeking, that will also ensure that actually the energy efficiency, which is around heat escaping from the building, is covered within the conditions that we're applying to the Commission. So that in the round should deal with the urban heat island effect, together with the provisions that you've seen in terms of kind of reusing water, etc., that will form part of the 5 credits under WAT 01.
Right, thank you. So I think what we're raising here is the fact that we don't want the building itself to inadvertently reflect or increase heat outside in the public realm. Councillor Thornborough, did you want to come back?
Yes, I thank you for that information, and it's something that I know residents are concerned about and will be raising again and again. But we haven't talked about the actual material of the external fabric, and that makes a difference. And it just maybe when that condition is being signed off, that could the effect of urban heat could be considered.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we need to make sure that the surface covering of a building doesn't reflect heat into the public realm or increase that. Okay, righto. Sorry, Councillor Porra.
Thank you. I am still really struggling with the lantern end of it. You know, it's such an abrupt finish to that building with that it's very square. And from an urban design point, I understand the officers, I believe, were content. I mean, I accept the balconies have made it a bit better. I don't know if Mike's able to show us the original designs we had at the previous committee so we can compare. Though I do appreciate just, again, sort of that view in the original. I do accept the tree things and other things are much better. But for me at the moment, particularly with that red colour, and I appreciate you're not wedded to the red, and I probably disagree slightly with Councillor Thornborough, I'm afraid, that for me, the combination of that really, really powerful colour and that very sort of flat, square edge with the pokey lantern on top, for me is tipping the massing to be, I'm struggling to justify. I would be more reassured. I thought the copper, the lighter colouring, just sat much better with me in terms of not being so absolutely dominant. It's a very statement at that end. And, you know, a lot of people are approaching it from that end. Obviously, commuters coming in will come from the rear end, but I don't know if that's what I want on the corner of what's going to be Hartree, potentially a new development. So I suppose so I'm not being very helpful. I'm still struggling with that end of the building. It doesn't seem refined to me. I would have expected, particularly the whole point of it is a triangle, and we've got a sort of very abrupt end with this big skulking lantern sitting on top that I'm still struggling with. So I don't know if the officer could comment on what colours, how the colouring is going to be approved, who's going to look at that, because I'm more reassured with that tone, or even a lighter one, than I am with the red, because for me the red just makes it look too angry and too aggressive for the site. But I appreciate that is my personal view, and others may disagree, but for me it just highlights that really blocky massing, which is not, normally we'd expect that kind of facade to be broken up. So I don't know if the officer can comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porra. In terms of the materials and the colour scheme, we've got the condition 33 in the addendum report, saying that notwithstanding the approved plans, no development above base cost shall take place until the materials colour scheme has been submitted to and approved in writing. So we, when the applicant enters into discussions with the council over the colour scheme, they will be aware of the debate that's taken place amongst members of committee, and they will, I am sure, want to submit something that is muted, less assertive colour-wise to deal with that, issue.
Members, sorry, are you going to listen to the officer's report? Sorry, do carry on.
Yeah, just saying that the applicant knows very well the very different views of members expressed in terms of colour. So a less assertive colour will be something that will be submitted for determination.
Thank you very much. Could you just address the issue that Councillor Porro raised about the design of the lantern?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, when this application has been submitted and debated and discussed with colleagues, it's of the view from our urban design colleagues who we look to for design advice that lantern feature, together with the colour, is not, and together with more detail on the lantern feature itself architecturally, that a lot of the refinement could, I mean, these rendered drawings sometimes don't fully show the refined nature of how you address this. So that's subject to materials planning conditions.
Okay, right, thank you. Councillor Thornborough?
I'm just picking up on what Councillor Porra was talking about, is actually the detail of the whole section through the external element of the building can really make it an award-winning building or make it a really disappointing building. And I think what one thing we'd like to encourage is the applicants to retain the architects throughout the whole of the construction process, so that the ideas about the vision for the building are retained, because they're better understood all the way through. Yeah, and because from this view, it looks like the section through the eastern elevation is different from the southern elevation, and that may be, that might be true because of the southern elevation you get a lot more heat, but the how it's broken up and finely detailed in the relationship with the window and the actual window sections, all of that will make it a really successful building or not. So I think you are warranted, and it's something, we always want award-winning buildings, but how it's actually built and finely detailed and finished is not something we have control about. So this is the message. I agree with Councillor Porra, that end elevation could be really successful if it's detailed and built,
And
exceptionally
after
well.
all, we're encouraged to look for beauty, aren't we? There was what I observe about this is that in that drawing, the lantern appears to have a horizontal roof, whereas in another elevation that you showed us, the lantern appeared to have a roof that was higher at the southern end than it was towards the north. In other words, it sort of stuck up like a promontory at the south end, which I didn't particularly welcome. And I don't know which of those is the proposed. It was the one where it was looking from the ground view. Yes, there. It appears to be much higher, which I think is much less attractive, and I think will not be welcomed. But anyway, my main concern is, as other councillors have said, there is a potential for this structure on the top of what might otherwise be, a design that looks coherent. Members, please, would you stop chatting? Thank you. Sorry, there is a potential for this structure on the top to look like, a cardboard box on the top of an otherwise coherent building. So what I would ask is that care is taken. As I say, I'm not wild about the lantern, but if members approve it, then can you make every effort to make sure that this looks like that this is a structure of good quality, that doesn't look like an add-on, that's striking, but part of a good quality building. So I would just ask for good design there and not particularly that upticked promontory at the front. I prefer it to be horizontal. Right, Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Chair. I know I'm don't have that many more years left, but I also know that some of the designs we seem to get these days, I just go, just going on from what others have said, it might look blocky, it might look blunt.
Sorry, I'm struggling to hear you, Councillor Hawkins.
The question that I wanted to ask, and I'll follow on from that if I may, is the design itself, has that been put to, I guess, the younger generation rather than us silver-haired people? Because they might have a different view, and this building is not for us, it's for them.
Mike Huntington can tell us.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't tell you whether any young people in particular have been involved in this process. The quality panel has looked at it. I couldn't tell you the age. There's no
The quality panel.
There's no young people in the quality panel.
Right.
It's just gone through the normal consultation process.
Okay. So, right, Councillor Baden.
Sorry, can I come back? I wanted to come back.
Sure.
So my point is this. In terms of design, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people might like it, some might not. But at this point in time, maybe in future, we need to be looking at, when we're doing, what is it, beauty or is it whatever it is, younger people also need to be having a voice in this, so that the view is wider than what we have here. Sorry, this is nothing personal. It's just a case of the design is for the future. We are not the future. I don't mind it. Yes, it looks blocky, but a lot of what we see now that's been built do look blocky. It's just what the color is. Now, I agree, the red for me is too aggressive. The color for that building needs to be softened. I think for me, the lightest of the copper colors, potentially, is what I think, will be acceptable in that location for this building. The lantern is a feature. Let's look at it as a feature. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Can I just ask members, when officers are speaking, or indeed other members are speaking, please would members do them the courtesy of keeping quiet? Councillor Baden, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Just a few points, which I sort of rounded up, I suppose. It's sad that we're sitting here and talking about this again, isn't it? If you'd have followed the City Council and the Joint Development Committee, then you'd know how important cycling, active travel and trees are to this committee. And we could have been agreeing this, I'm guessing, that we're going to do it. I think that's the way we're heading.
Councillor Baden, it's
Can you not interrupt, Chair?
I'm asking you because actually, having stood up, you're further away from your microphone. So
Can you hear me? Okay, I'll speak louder. It's okay.
That's great.
I stand up because I've got bad legs and I take the opportunity to get up rather than keep getting up and walking around. But I can talk louder, I can talk much louder, very much louder. So maybe you're spread amongst your colleagues and maybe the press might pick this up and the thousands of people that are watching us online, that this council's concerned about trees.
Councillor Baden,
Active trucks.
you're addressing me. You're addressing the chair. You're not addressing the applicants. Thank you.
I was talking to the camera, Chair. Okay. Are you deliberately annoying me?
No.
Well, you are. I'll start again. It would be good if we weren't discussing this again. This could have been approved or turned down in October if people had been aware of the importance this council puts on water, trees, landscape, cycling and car parking, and the look of the building. So I just want that message to go out to the public and to architects throughout the country that this council is concerned about those issues. As a young person, I've just had a very hard life, so I look old. But I do remember hanging out. Sorry about that, so I looked at the member that said that. I do remember that when I was younger, if this building had been proposed, it would be square, it would be concrete, and it would be really boring. I think it's none of those things. Land's at a premium in this particular area. It's going to be a great site. So if it's a bit big for the land, then so be it. We need to encourage people to build within our city, because this city is going places, as it always has done and will continue to do so. And that person from the other party, Gove, is all in favour of this. And if we can encourage it by going up and out a little bit, then I think that's a great idea. I think the public realm is really good. I think that it's encouraging to see people listening, and it'll be good for the staff. And the welfare of the staff is good for the company. And the welfare of the people driving or walking past, preferably, is good for the country. The suggestions about water are great. I'm not so sure about the grey water. We, of course, will support that, but I'm not sure that it's actually allowable now. But probably by the time this building is built, then grey water will be able to be recycled. With regards to the colour, I've got a suggestion. You know, let's be vibrant. Let's mix it in. I recognise parties who are not party political here, but they're talking about copper colours and yellow. And we have a bit of a preference for the red. I think maybe be bold, be very bold, and put bright colours on this site. Make it look good. Make it really look good. I don't think I've got anything else to say.
Thank you. Right. So
I just want to finish by saying thank you very much for bringing it back. Thank you very much for listening to us. And I think it's an excellent building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, before you leap to speak, we haven't yet had discussion about item D, which is the updated sustainability strategy and water use strategy. Okay, we're still talking about the building design, colour and materials. It's just that Councillor Bagent appeared to be summing up. So do carry on about the building design, colour and materials.
Thank you. I just want to pick on 2 points that have been made previously. The first point was about the materials palette, and the choice of the materials has a significant impact on the urban heat island impact. Now, this is going to be the first of many buildings of this scale and massing in northeast Cambridge, if we proceed with that development, which I very much hope that we do. And therefore, we do need a new policy, but in the interim, we can use this condition, 33 materials, to address that particular issue. And as drafted, condition 33 is underpowered to do that job, and I think it needs an amendment to that effect. And I thank my colleague, Councillor Thornborough, for bringing that issue to the fore. The other point that Councillor Thornborough made was about vertical landscaping. There is intent to include vertical landscaping in the drawing pack. And I haven't had time to look at the specific conditions. I think it's probably 2021, as to whether or not they are, again, sufficiently powered to cover that issue that Councillor Thornborough introduced. So I just want to make those points. I'd also want to add that this was a difficult building to, from the massing point of view, it was a difficult building to be confronted through. But the more I've reflected on it, the more I've recognised that actually it's the right thing to be doing here, because this is the most sustainable location in the whole of Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire. And so by that, we need, therefore, to be maximising the benefit of that sustainability location. Yeah, so I support this element of the scheme.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just before we come on to Councillor Smart, or would it be better to take Councillor Smart's comment first?
Take Councillor Smart, then
Yeah.
I'll come in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smart.
Thanks, Chair. So, as Councillor Porro says, it is a big building, massing-wise. I mean, we've been through that before, really, at the last meeting, I think. And but that plays into the point I just wanted to talk about briefly, which is the colour. And you know, Councillor Stobart took me back to the 60s with his hanging around comment, and no disrespect on that. It's a useful point to think about. And I was having a couple of conversations with a neighbour and my daughter recently about car colours and deux chevaux and the bright colours of the 60s and the grim, recessionary, miserable colours of today, of black and brown and grey. Well, brown's okay, actually, but grey maybe. And, you know, maybe we can look forward to happier times ahead. And that's, so, you know, I've no problem with bright colours, including red or any other bright colour. I'm a big colours person myself. I think I'm quite sensitive to colour. But in classic colour theory, red is a very bright, shocking, potentially, colour, and in a big building could have an effect that was maybe not what was intended. However, having said all of that, we don't normally talk about colour in this committee. It's very rare, in fact. And we don't normally redesign schemes on the table. That's very rare as well. But we seem to be doing both today and before, and I think that's wrong. And I think the applicant should make the building within, you know, the planning matters as they see fit, including the colour. It's a location on a corner which normally tends to, you know, the architectural convention is to go a bit higher on the corner often, and to have a brighter colour potentially on the corner plays into that sort of way of thinking as well in terms of design and architecture. So it's all really fitting with that kind of approach. So what I'm saying is that you should disregard most of the things that have been said and make the building as you wish it to be. But I think that a bright coloured building could be good on this location. And I think there could be other bright coloured buildings. The other ones, like Cambridge Consultants and all those other things, they're mostly grey and miserable. I mean, where's the joy in going to work if you go to work in a building that's just a big block of black or something? Let's have some fun. I mean, fun as well. Postmodernism brought fun into the world. I mean, this isn't a postmodern building, but, you know, why not have some fun and joy and excitement? Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Smart. I know Toby would like to talk to us about the building. Do you want to just raise your point first, and then perhaps Toby?
Thank you. I am slightly concerned we do appear to have two different views with the different size of the lantern. For me, neither are particularly great, but I'm in a really difficult position here. I disagree with Councillor Smart on that, I'm afraid. For me, the red tips the balance of the massing to be that I can't support it. And I suppose what I would ask for, I'm a little uncomfortable with it being later they can just put the colour in and we'll leave it to the officers to have that fight. For me, I accept the lighter colours are better. It reduces the massing, and I think it still has a statement effect, but it makes it more attractive, visually appealing. So for me at the moment, I think unless I'm reassured that it's not coming back in bright red, which for me fundamentally changes the view of the massing, it's an aggressive colour. Nothing to do with party politics, I wouldn't want it in yellow either. Yeah, anyway, that's where I am at the moment on this.
Thank you.
But I would like some reassurance that when this does go through, we do check that the plans match the pictures, because I don't want to approve 2 lanterns, that would be,
No, no.
as the chair
exactly.
rightly pointed out, they're different.
Councillor Thornborough.
No, we have hundreds of red brick Victorian buildings around this country. Huge things, red. And this is a modern version
I was-
of a red building.
I was just going to make the point that actually this colour does look more like a brick building, which I find more attractive. But hey-ho, let's go to Toby to talk to us about building design.
Thanks, Chair. It is a large and prominent building, so I think members are right to be, diligent around making sure that the design and its appearance is going to be acceptable. My point of view, and it may allay some members' concerns, that it might be worth members considering whether a standalone condition for that lantern feature could be appended to any permission, which would delve into some of the details around the cross sections, how those columns are formed, the precise nature of the setback and the landscaping, and how those elements work for tall buildings in particular, rather than kind of relying on a suggestion to the applicants that they retain the existing architects. My view actually would be, if that is a key part of the building that's going to draw attention, let's look at some more detailed design for that lantern feature via an additional condition. Just turning to the urban heat island effect and the colour of the material, yes, Councillor Smith is right. I think actually looking at condition 33 on page 23, there is merit to revise that condition to include the consideration of the urban heat island effect when considering the choice of materials. So I'd suggest that that is quite an interesting kind of proposition in terms of considering this type of condition going forward. And then lastly, with regard to the foundation design point that Councillor Pora raised, I think I would agree with the suggestion that actually a standalone condition looking at foundation design specifically would be appropriate, rather than doing it through the hard and soft landscaping condition. So hopefully those comments are helpful in members' overall consideration of the scheme. Lastly, if colour kind of remains an issue, we are going to be getting kind of samples and building material samples here. It's within committee's ability to ask specifically, for example, that perhaps some of these colours and material samples come back to committee for their consideration, or better still, that if they're out on site, that they're displayed out on site and you can see them perhaps on site before the final materials are chosen, and there could be a proper discussion.
Thank you, Toby. Right, so so we've got a suggestion that we might have a specific condition, which I think would end up being 38, and we'll look at strengthening condition 33. Right, we'll come back to those in a minute. I can see Councillor Fane has got his hand up. We also need to look at D, which is the sustainability, and I propose to do that first before we go that. But Councillor Fane, was your comment on the building design?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, like Councillor Pagent, I'm always sorry when it's felt this committee has to defer applications. I think it's very important we consider them as they come before us. I am satisfied that the first 3 criteria that we were concerned about, the design now reflects our concerns. When we look at the building design, this is a building that is always going to stand out. It is right that it should stand out. It is not going to recede into the background. It's not going to be apologetic. It is going to be a signature building. And we should not seek to try and soften it down in some way. when it comes to beauty, which we're often critical, is a requirement but is not defined. I'm not sure that's entirely the case now, but one of my concerns is always the lack of roof schemes. We have here a distinctive roof scheme. We should welcome that. As to the details, this committee has expressed views on the colour. As I said, I don't think it should be apologetic. I agree with some of the comments earlier that this needs to stand out. And I do not believe, I think we should leave it to officers to interpret our concerns and to agree those conditions subsequently. I would not support this application having to come back to this committee. We need to decide it today. And for what it's worth, we've not yet reached the debate. But taking account of all of the 4 items, I am satisfied that we should now determine this application.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Smart, and I can't remember which way you put your hands up. Did Councillor Hawkins, did you have your hand up? No? No? Okay. Oh, okay, right. So Councillor Smart.
I thought Toby made some good comments there, so thanks for that. Just the last one I find a bit perplexing. I wasn't quite clear where we were with the colour. So, like Councillor Fane, I'm not keen on any more debate on this or consideration in the future on that. I think we should have made the decision the last time it came to committee, let alone today, and not in the future. I think trying to sort of have a few people in this committee decide the colour of a building in the city, or maybe officers or one or two of the both, is wrong. I mean, I think we just need to look at the application and decide to vote yay or nay. That's what we've got on the table. I mean, are we going to do this every time a colourful building comes to this committee? It's just not going to be practical, is it really?
Councillor Smart, we often have conditions for
So
materials.
I think that's the way forward. We've got a red building on the table. Vote for it if you like it. Don't vote for it if you don't like it.
Sorry, what I was saying was that we often have conditions relating to materials and finishes. So, Councillor Thornborough.
I appreciate Toby's comments. Personally, I do not think we need a separate condition about the design of the bit at the top, the lantern. In my opinion, I think the reality of that is from the outside, you'll only really notice it from a distance. And for me, what's more important is actually the section through the facades, which you'll see from street level and also from the inside. So I do feel that we, as Councillor Fane was saying, we should decide what's based on what's in front of us, and not to have too many things coming back. Thanks.
Right, just one moment. I just would like to consult with Toby for a moment. Right, members. Okay, so Mike, would you be so good as to just show us slowly and carefully what the colour options are? And I'm proposing to take a vote in this committee about which colour this committee prefers. If it doesn't come out even, or if it comes out way one, we'll see. But so this is called, right, if you could go back one, Mike. Or forward one, yes, okay, that's the, yes, stay with the original, that other slide. No, that one, yeah? So that's the original colour. Sorry, could you leave it on the screen for a bit, please? The other one, the red one. That one, yeah, okay, so that is what Councillor Bagent said he liked and some other people said they liked, right? So let's call that red. Right, would you then move on to the next option? That I would call, let's call it dark copper. It's called version 2. Right, so have a look at that. And then there was another one that was lighter than that, wasn't it? Okay, carry on, 2 more. So that one's called copper version 1, which we'll call pale copper. And then there was another one. What's that? That's the same as the previous one. So, as far as I can see, we've only got 3 colours. We've got red, dark copper, which is version 2, and copper version 1, which is pale copper. Am I mistaking it?
Sorry, Chair.
Oh, red version 2, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's-
that's red version 2.
There's the version that was submitted, and
Yeah.
then there's these 3 other ones that are all shown us from this axonometric rendered.
So we've got 4 options.
Correct.
Right. Councillor Smart.
I have to say, I just feel this is madness, Chair.
It is
Both
not madness. I'm
functionally
trying to
and
take
practically, because I am speaking, Chair. So, you know, firstly, never done this before. You've obviously checked with officers, so maybe it's a thing. But to have this committee deciding on a colour is very, very odd. But perhaps more importantly, we're deciding on very little evidence. We're looking at a screen from a distance with a bit of colour on it. So to decide the colour of a building in this way is just not reliable. And in any way, we're redesigning the scheme on the table. So we don't do that. So what are you doing, Chair?
What I'm doing is following a process, because we raised on the 18th of October an objection on the grounds of building design, colour and materials. Well, not an objection, it was a request. We deferred and asked the applicants to come back with different ideas. That is what they have offered us. These are the colours that the applicant is offering us and saying, we could do it, these different colours. So all I'm saying is, of these options that the applicant has suggested to us, are any of these preferable to others? That's all I'm saying. And so if members had a wild urge to have one colour or the other, then it would be useful to know. If not, we don't have to do that. Councillor Thornborough.
Chair, I don't mind any of those colours, and I would prefer that the condition 33 is slightly strengthened to deal with the urban heat effect, and would suggest that the final material, whether it could be a terracotta panel or it could be some form of metal or whatever is provided by the applicant, is it needs to be considered with the detail of the building, but within that range of colour. Maybe we could just agree within that range of colour, but leave it to the
I'm not,
officers.
sorry, absolutely. I'm just saying, are there any of these colours that the committee finds more appealing? That's all. The only thing is that what I'm trying to do is to give our officers an indication of what the committee prefers. Councillor Smith.
I think Councillor Thornborough's right. Form follows function in the sense that I think what's more important to us here is that we minimise the heat island effect. We're going to need to do this across a huge number of buildings in this area, so we might as well start here today and get this right. And for me, the materials palette, from that point of view, from that objective, creates a new aesthetic.
Yes.
And I think that overcomes issues of taste on which colour scheme. To me, they all look broadly similar. I agree with Councillor Smart. It's not really our business. We shouldn't be getting involved in this. It's the applicant's building. They're putting the money up. Let them have the choice in consultation with the planning officers. They've heard our views on this. They're right across the board. There's no consensus on this. I don't think we should proceed with the vote. Let's just get on and deal with the other matters we've got in front of us.
Okay, so can I just have a show of hands? Do you agree that we just leave it to delegation? Or would you like to consider which colour you sort of prefer here? So those in favour of delegation? Those in favour of indicating a colour preference? Okay, so it's fewer. Okay, righto, so we'll leave it for delegation. No pressure, Mike. You are now going to be responsible for the aesthetic of the new area. What I would point out that this is just one application, and there will be many applicants for the other parts of the North East Cambridge site who will have all sorts of their own views. However, we still need to look at item D, which related to the sustainability. Councillor Stobart. Sorry, the element was updated sustainability strategy and water use strategy. Could I just refer you to the fact that we have got revised, both on page 23, but also revised in our addendum that we received by email about conditions 35 for grey water, 36 for rainwater and 37 for water efficiency. So Councillor Stobart.
Chair, if you'll indulge me for a second, I think Councillor Smart mentioned Cambridge Consultants who implemented a building, one of the founding buildings on the Science Park, which was a lovely concrete structure set in rolling lawns. But for its time, downstairs labs, upstairs offices, it was absolutely radical. And it's nice to see this building actually marking a milestone in the development of kind of Cambridge R&D buildings. Anyway, that's just an aside. So my comments on sustainability, I think Councillor Bagent mentioned grey water and some question marks over grey water, but I believe within a building, if the system is completely self-contained, grey water is okay. Just if you're expecting a water supplier to supply grey water, that won't happen because of the current legislative position, but entirely internally it's fine. But I just wanted to ask, that requires quite a significant commitment to plant and future maintenance costs and so on. The history of grey water within a building is not great. So a question of, are the applicants mindful of the kind of task that they've commissioned in that regard? If you will, a second point on use of solar panels in relation to thermal management. Now bear in mind a solar panel, highly efficient solar panel, absorbs something like 20, if you're doing well, 23% of that incidence solar energy is turned to electricity, which is a great way of managing incident solar. So have the applicants also considered in the thermal management proposal use of solar in that kind of intermediate step of managing energy flows, but also giving that boost to local generation? So two questions, grey water commitment and solar panels.
Thank you, Councillor Stobart. Mike Huntington, can you possibly comment on whether you've had any indication from the applicants that they've understood their commitment to the future maintenance of a grey water system and also the use of solar panels for solar management? In other words, to reduce the impact of solar gain on buildings.
Thank you, Chair. In answer to the second point, I don't have an idea on that issue. On the first point, all I could say is that the applicant has said to me and to Emma Davis that they will be at REBA Stage 3 developing the specific design of the grey water harvest system will be developed at that stage. Now, that's all I have at the moment, and I have the planning condition on the amendment sheet, which is condition 35.
Yeah.
Well, condition 35 is refers to that grey water scheme, grey water recycling.
Yes.
Okay. And it may well be that.
And that will have to be signed off by the local authority.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it may well be that type of thing becomes more relevant over time, as if it's not used that often at the moment.
Yep.
In an area of water stress, it might become.
But it also says, and thereafter maintained strictly in accordance with the approved details. So I'm hoping that means that the greater maintenance needs of greywater schemes will be taken into account in the long-term planning of the building. Okay, I can't see anybody. Oh, yes, Councillor Thornborough.
Yeah, so this is the second scheme where 5 water credits have been proposed, and it's fantastic. I'm really, really pleased. And I think it's because it actually covers all the water usage in the building. I just have a couple of points. One is in your report, point 27, it refers to post-completion of the water system. And then, just wait till you get that.
That's on page
Post-completion. And then-
22.
Yeah. It's point 27.
On page 22.
And
yeah.
but the proposed revised condition 37 is about water efficiency, and it talks about the development hereby approved shall not be used or occupied until evidence about the water usage has been shown. How can you get the evidence before the building's being used? Would it be just that it's got to be fully tested, tested out? I mean, the condition says it's got to be approved before it's used, the building's used, but I don't know how you can test out the whole water system until
the building's in
So
use.
it may be, I'm just maybe being a bit
No, it's
pedantic.
fine. It's a reasonable
But
question.
so I think what is really important is point 27, which is post-completion and post-occupancy. It's the viability, I think this one thing about BREEAM is how it's actually used rather than how it's designed. And the same with the water. It's how whether it's achieving the 5 water credits. And I would really like it as a member of a planning committee to know the post-occupancy effectiveness of this design. I don't know whether we can do it as an informative about, can you come back and let us know, because this is what we need on all of our BREEAM buildings, BREEAM design buildings. We need this level of water, it's a water strategy for the building, and knowing that this is an exemplar, and this is how this has got to be the norm.
Yes.
So the other thing is, there is a current building on the site, and it would be really good to know what the current water usage is and what the design expected usage of the building, this new building, which is so well designed for water efficiency. Are you actually going to be using less water on this site than is currently being used? Because that is what we need. We need to be aiming to reduce the current usage of water. So if this design is aiming to achieve that, it's really good. We should be celebrating that.
Interestingly, if you remember, there's another application recently where we were told that the application would use no more than the application for the new building would use no more water than the existing building. And I said, can we check that after the event? And I was told, no, we can't, by Keith Barber, because industrial commercial buildings buy their water wholesale, and so there's not a way of monitoring it. I assumed you could stick a water meter on the pipe and it would still work the same way. But hey-ho, that's what I was told last time we asked that. So I'm mindful I've got Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Smart, but I think we ought to ask Mike Huntington to respond to those points first.
Thank you, Chair. I discussed the condition 37 with Emma Davies last week, and that was the wording that she suggested. I had suggested the original condition about the post-completion certificate, but this one was more, it was considered that the wording of 37 was the right wording, but I understand what you're saying about how do you prove that it's working until people are in it. But then I suppose you probably need the building to be completely full then, wouldn't you?
So I've just asked, could we have 27, which requires water efficiency measures are implemented, and 37, which says, can you prove that you've got your water credits? And Toby says he can talk to us about this.
Sorry, Chair, through you, just to help Mike, so I was looking at these conditions yesterday. So this is effectively, these conditions are starting to form a new set that officers are going to be using. So that condition 37 is kind of correctly worded in terms of the timing of that information effectively into this calculator. You'll plug in some of the specifications that you're looking to use, and then that churns out your Watt 05 credits. So it's kind of like it's part of the BREEAM assessment that the applicants go through. And then effectively what Emma's doing, which picks up on Councillor Stobart's points around, do you know what you're getting into if you're committing to kind of grey water recycling, is that condition, and the other one around rainwater is then kind of confirming exactly where within the building those elements are. And then at the back of the report, you'll see that there are then the BREEAM post-occupation certification requirements, which ties in the back of the process to confirm that what's been promised at the start has been delivered. So it's three stages. This is the standard. Here's the interim design specs. It accords with the calculator. Here's the detail, and here's the detailed design, and here's the evidence that we've actually gone ahead and done it, and here's the certificate.
So that is effectively conditioning, is a sort of an iterative process. It's, yeah, okay. Right, so, Councillor Smith. Oh, sorry, just before, forgive me, I did say before, I had hands up from Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Smart first. Can I go to them first? Sorry. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I'll always get there eventually. I just want to say thank you to the applicant team for taking the issues that we were concerned about and bringing back to us what we have in front of us today. I'm happy with the water issue and sustainability and all that. What I think we have here is a statement building. Beauty, as I said, is in the eye of the beholder, but there are options on the table as to what the colour might end up looking like. The applicants have actually dealt with the issues in a very good way. And frankly, I think, and this is for me supporting the previous motion by Councillor Fain, that we actually just get on and, make a decision on this, please.
Point taken, we're getting there.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Smart, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So I thought Councillor Sombra's point about water use is very useful and interesting, and obviously we want to get water use down across the city, so that's the sort of driver on that, I guess. But I mean, two things. Firstly, the data that informs that could be open to abuse, and so there'd need to be a robust system in place to be able to understand and interrogate that data. But also, it seems to me, although others might disagree, it seems that the caveat to that would be a consideration of some sort of comparative parameter. So you'd need to consider either square meters or people in the building, I guess, or both. Because if you just plonk a huge building on a site that had a little building, it wouldn't really make sense, would it, except that you are using more water, probably. But we do need some sort of robust way of measuring changes in water use, and I'm not quite sure just one building for another would actually work.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to now... Councillor Smith, I was going to sum up.
Right, thank you. Before you sum up, Chair, just 2 points. Toby didn't respond to my question about whether the landscaping condition was robust enough to include the vertical public realm. It's just a question about that. And then the other one is more procedural, which is, it appears we're now getting a new policy set for water. And I thought Toby's articulation of the process was excellent. And I'm just raising the question, is this going to, can the officers take this away and develop it and refine it so that this is presented to all three committees? Because I think this needs to be now standard for us, the standard ambition. Each iteration we have, we are getting better and better buildings. And this is a really important step in that continuous improvement in the work that all three committees do. I think it's a great innovation, and I welcome it strongly. Finally, I'm ready to vote on this.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so I propose we move. Sorry, I'm not going to take any further questions at this point.
Well, I did refer to Councillor Thornborough. Maybe she might come back on that. Sharon.
Councillor Thornborough.
So I just wanted to say that the presentation that we had today for the landscaping, I thought, and the way the points we'd raised was really good. I think I just wanted to say that. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Right, so we asked the applicants to address these 4 points. They have come back with new revised suggestions relating to these 4 points. In my view, this is, yes, it was always going to be a big building on this site, and it has to use the space available for all the reasons that other members have pointed out. This is going to be a very busy and active part of Cambridge if the North East Cambridge development comes about. We've had much improved access, and I'm so glad we've now got cycle parking inside the building, which is great. I think the approach to the landscaping has been significantly improved, and we've had sensitive thinking about what the change to the appearance, the outside of the building and the green space around it, how that will interact with the road and the other buildings. We've had a considerable discussion about the design, and I'm happy that comes back under delegated authority to the officers to consider, the niceties of the design. And I'm satisfied that the sustainability issues are being raised, and that undoubtedly we will have new policies coming before the committees relating to how we deal with water and sustainability issues. So I'd like to thank the applicants for bringing those revised suggestions to us. So I'm now going to come to Toby to remind us about what conditions we are considering before we come to a vote. Please.
Thank you, Chair. So the conditions are conditions 1 to 31 in the original officer report. That's pages 73 to 87. It's conditions 32 and 34 as set out on the addendum report, which is page 23. Is conditions 35 and 37 to 237 are set out on the amendment sheet. Then it's the informatives 1 to 6, the original officer report, page 87 to 89. And then during the course of the discussion, there is an additional condition which would be condition 38.
Well, we decided not to do that.
I don't think we did, Chair. I think my understanding was that foundation design for new existing trees.
This was to do with the design of the
There
lantern.
was no, this is to do with foundation design in relation to new and existing trees, which would be condition 38. The condition you were referring to, which I don't think carried weight, was to do with the design lantern. And then the revision to condition 33 which is in relation to materials to include the consideration of the urban heat island effect when looking at materials. So
And
those...
there's just also, of course, the second element of the recommendation on page 18, which is related to the section 106.
Yeah, you've asked me to read out the conditions, Chair, so if you want me to read out the recommendation following that, then I will so do.
Fine. Thank you. So that is what we'll be voting on, members. So, if you are in favour of the application with all those amendments.
Just, I made a note, proposer and seconder. I missed seconder. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was going to propose the application as it stands. Does anybody wish to second? Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. So we'll go to a vote. So members, if you wish to vote in favour of the application with the amendments that we've made during this discussion, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favour, Chair.
And anybody against?
1 against.
And any abstaining? Okay, so that's carried, members. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for listening intently to. You will have heard how members feel about the application, so thank you very much. I propose now, members, a pause. We come to the end of our formal meeting. And we'll just, yes, agenda item 5 is just following discussion of JDCC meeting dates at the November 2023 meeting. Members are asked to note the future dates for the rest of the municipal year for 2024-25. And members are, which are on, I think, on the back of the paper? Yes, they are, on page 91. And the next meeting will be on Monday, the 12th of February. Monday, the 12th of February, so not our usual Wednesday date. Okay, thank you very much. That ends the meeting. Could you end the live stream, please?